Thank you, Asha. It's wonderful to hear you. Thank you all, distinguished leaders. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Please be seated. You know, I want to begin by welcoming all of you distinguished people to Las Vegas. And a lot of people wonder, why Las Vegas? Why does Father like Las Vegas so much? Why not? Why not? You know, let me tell you a story. One of my friends happens to be the architect for the Bellagio, the Encore, and the $5 billion casino that's going up right next to this hotel. And he's a Catholic man, and he went all the way to meet the Pope John Paul before he passed away. And the Pope himself at that time was very sick, and he was hunched over in his chair, almost paralyzed. And then one of the bishops came up to him and said, "Your Excellency, the delegation from Las Vegas is here." And he leaned forward and said, "Does the Catholic Church still have a church in Las Vegas?" I said, "Yes, Your Excellency, of course we do." "Never saw." So the Pope can see the value of Las Vegas, and you know, in any casino, actually, there are more prayers said in Las Vegas than anywhere else in the world.
That's the truth. They mean it too. They mean it.
There's a wisdom. Please, Lord, 21. 7, Lord, just one more time, 7. So why Las Vegas? Why not? You know, we should all start spreading the news. I'm going to stay. I want to be a part of it. Las Vegas, Las Vegas. Don't get me started. I have to come here and deliver a very important message, so don't get me started, because once you get me started, I don't stop. But thank you. No, but I'm going to talk to you. I don't want to take any more of your time, but I'm going to talk to you briefly about 3 things. I'm going to talk about the future. I'm going to talk about the past, and I'm going to talk about where we are right now. Because we need to be in control of all these things if we are to truly inherit the blessing that my Father has bestowed upon all of us. And in his teachings, he teaches of the 3 blessings. That is, of course, the blessing of mind over body. The number 2 is, of course, the blessing of the blessing. And, of course, dominion is the 3rd blessing. The torch has now been passed to a new generation. And that generation is now the generation of the 2nd generation. And it is with the 2nd generation and with your help that we will usher in a new age of abundance, of peace, and everlasting love. Amen. I want to talk to you about the future, though. If you can all bear with me. Any Star Trek fans here? No? Nobody? Some of you nerds just out of yourself. Thank you very much for being so brave. Stein, did you raise your hand? It was wonderful to see these faces. But if you can imagine, Father was all about expanding our minds. And if you can imagine space, the final frontier, this is the journey that starts by the rise. A 5-year mission to boldly go where no man has gone before. If we can imagine a world, a future world, where actually they actually came up with this. There are actually 3 categories that are categorized by the smartest people in the world who go to MIT and wear glasses and pocket protectors. And there are 3 different types of civilizations. And I really ask you, what type of civilization will we inherit? Type 1 is a planetary type civilization. That's like Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon, if you're old enough to remember who they are. That's where the planet, the people there live in total harmony with the world, that they can actually control the weather, control volcanoes, and use all the resources of the world in harmony and in peace. Type 2 civilizations are the civilizations that are actually immortal, and we find those in Star Trek, for all you fans, and the United Federation of Planets. And these are people who actually play with stars, if you can imagine, playing with the power of the universe. And then, of course, there's Type 3, which is galactic, which we find in The Empire Strikes Back. Now, why is that important? Who cares? Why that important is, what are we? We are type 0. We don't even register. We're type 0 because we still burn our fuel from old fossilized plants. We still use coal and oil for power. And we certainly don't live in harmony with the world. So I see two trends facing us as a people, as a future. And two trends that when I open a newspaper, all of us are old enough to actually remember newspapers. Younger people don't do that. They open up their iPads. But I remember opening up a newspaper and I see two trends. And the world is naturally marching forward towards a worldwide movement, a global planetary world. And I see that in the form of, the internet. What is the internet? The internet is the beginning of the first global telephone. If you think about it, we're all alive to witness the first global telephone. If you think about language, think of English. What is English? English is the #1 language of business. It is the lingua franca, sorry to use a big word, but it is the lingua franca of science, of technology, and it is the #1 second language in the world. If I look at economics, and if you look at the European Union, the EU, who are they? The Europeans have done nothing since the ice have melted 10,000 years ago but successfully kill each other. But why did they form an EU? To compete with us, Americans. Who are we? We're NAFTA. And eventually we'll have to join up with them to compete with China. But look at culture. What do you see when you listen to culture, when you walk out into the world, no matter where you go in life? You hear rock and roll music, you hear hip-hop music, you hear soul music. This is the music of the people, of the young people. And you hear it everywhere. If you look at high fashion, everywhere you go, you see Gucci and Prada and all these other products as well. If you look at sports, look at the Olympics. Look at soccer. Soccer was a tribal initiation rite that's now become a global tribal initiation rite. And it truly is a way for the world to come together through sports. So, what are some of the dangers? I look at that same newspaper and I see an opposite trend. The opposite trend I see is terrorism. Look at terrorism. Terrorism is a reaction against a worldwide movement. They aren't reacting against modernism. They still like their iPhones like everybody else. They're reacting to the fact that we're marching towards a multicultural, tolerant, scientific, and religiously harmonized world. They don't want science or a single or encompassing theology. They want a theocracy. They don't want multiculturalism. They don't want different races. They want monoculturalism. So who's going to win? What world would we have? So where should we begin? Let's go back to the past. Let's look at where it all began. Let's look at the first family, or rather, the first dysfunctional family. Cain and Abel. That's where it all began. And you know, as an entertainer, as an actor, looking at Cain and Abel, you realize who are these people? If we were to meet them today in life, can we identify them? Would they be easy to spot? That was an open question, by the way. Think about it. Look at who Cain was. How many days was he there looking in the fields, looking at his younger brother Abel? That little... Hey, Abel. What are you going to do today? Go out in the fields? Lamb? Sheep? Good, good. You know what I'm going to do? I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to work in the fields. The fields that my father planted. And I'm going to work there and put in an honest day's work while you go around in the meadows and in the mountains and you eat the berries and smell the flowers and drink the mountain water. And I hope you enjoy that mountain water because I have to work in the blazing hot sun to fulfill my father's legacy while you prance around like a fairy. Oh yeah, okay, good. You're going to go? Go. All right, have a nice day, Abel. You have a nice day. Those people are pretty easy to spot. But if you really look at Abel, the Bible doesn't really say how old Abel was. Take it from me. I come from a very large family. And I know what it's like to drive my brothers and sisters into murderous rage. And if Abel was this innocent, sweet, 10-year-old kid that just was out there in the fields with attending his flock, bye, Cain! Have a good day in the fields, working, sweaty. Cain could have easily have gone, my stupid little brother. But that wouldn't have driven him to murder. Why did that drive him to murder? I don't think Abel was that tiny, insignificant, weak, passive person that we all believe he was. I believe Abel was strong. See, what happens was Cain spoke in the language of I and you. It's not my problem. It's your problem. You're the one. And I go, how interesting is that? Have you ever had road rage? No one here, of course. But have you ever driven somebody? What drives somebody to murderous rage? Usually when you reflect their own insanity back upon them. And Abel, if you can imagine Abel and Cain sitting at the table with his father, Cain looking at his father saying, look, Father, look what I have achieved. I am the one clearly maintaining your legacy. I am the one who truly can inherit all the blessing of God because I am the one who works every day to fulfill your glory. By the way, Dad, do you know Abel has been feeding some of your grain, good grain, the good grain that we hold for harvest next year? He was using that for his flock. Well, that's terrible, son. Abel, is this true? Yes, Father. I did use the grain that was saved for a special occasion, but I did that because I realized in order for my flock to grow and for us to have the harvest that we deserve, we need to feed them the good grain so that they can have the health and the strength to go into the fields and be together and bear fruit that we can enjoy during the harsh winter months when we are no longer able to grow any grain. Are you disrespecting me from my father? Abel was not weak. Not at all. In fact, he was strong, but strong in truth, because Abel spoke one language and one language only. And it was the language not of I or you. It was the language of we. And only from that language could then the Heavenly Father bless upon him all the future harvests that he planned to give that faithful first family. But then what happened? Oh, Cain, dear God, I will get my revenge. And I will laugh at Abel when finally during the autumnal equinox where we offer our sacrifices unto God, that my sacrifice will be lifted to the heavens and Abel's sacrifice will be blown in his face. That's where I'll get my revenge. That's where I will get my recognition and day in the sun that I deserve. Then, of course, that day happens. It doesn't exactly go that way, does it? So that's why Cain had to kill Abel. And if you think about it, Cain didn't kill Abel in the house where he slept. No. He didn't follow Abel up into the mountains where he grazed upon the berries. No. What did he do? He invited Abel into the fields where Cain felt comfortable in, the socio-economic political fields where he was strong, that would give him the power and the strength to ultimately murder his own brother. Now, why do I mention this? Because when I look at the problems that we face today, we all have that Cain and Abel element within us all, don't we? I mean, I know Obama is very popular with his "my fellow Americans," with his speech and his wonderful, wonderful rhetoric. But I don't know. Maybe Obama would be more effective if he talked more like Morgan Freeman. I'm sorry, just that Reverend Brown sounds just like Morgan Freeman. Amazing. It was a hard year for the Unification Church. But some birds' feathers are just too bright to be locked in a cage. Unification Church. The only church I know who crawled through a river of smut and came out squeaky clean the other side. I'm Morgan Freeman, and I approve this message. But I share with you, my dear brothers and sisters, as an African who happens to be American, that that continent that they are ready to be uplifted. And if you look at what's happening in the world in America, I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, they're all idiots. It doesn't matter. We can all unite under the fact that we will be paying $10 for a gallon of milk and $30 for a gallon of gas. And how paradoxical would it be if Africa rose up as a continent and then became the ones who bailed out America? Can you imagine? The dirty little secret about American success is that it came on the backs of African slaves, and yet that is a true sign of brother Cain, not Cain, but Abel brotherhood, where they can come here and then help resurrect us financially, and then what? What about us? Who are we going to be? Will we be the brothers and sisters to provide them the leadership that they need in their country, to provide the stability that they deserve so they can grow? Can we, as African Americans, can we together raise up our people so they can be the future leaders of this world? Reverend Oliver, right? Are you testifying, Reverend Oliver? Amen, Reverend Oliver. Now sit down. No, I'm serious. And this isn't just among us Africans. This is among the other clergy in the room. Where are the good men that our women can marry? Where are the fathers? Where are the fathers that can raise the families that will stay in that family? And what that is in the garden. If the roots are strong, then all will be well. And even if the winter and the fall kills the plant itself, if the root is strong, in the spring and the summer the plant will grow back, and we will all receive a harvest of bounty and abundance that we can then share and nourish the world. This is the vision that my father had. This is our responsibility from now until the end of our lives. Because, brothers and sisters, my father didn't think in the lifespan of just our pathetic lives. He thought in 3 generations. So, brothers and sisters, during this crucial time, during this time where we are preparing for the feast or the famine of the winter, I need all of your support. I need your help. Because together, when the spring and the summer comes, will be a bounty that the world has never seen before. So I'd like to leave you with this. When the Spanish Armada came to invade England back in the 1500s, they outnumbered the British 2-1. Their Spanish galleons were the strongest in all of the world that the world has ever seen. They had 3 times more guns, and twice as more men, and twice as much armor and armament. And a great admiral rose out of the ashes. And he saw that his crew were just children. And they were all afraid. And he faced them and said, "Be courageous. This is your date with destiny. This is our David and Goliath." And what he said to them was so arousing that they not only fought with the most fearsome fury, but they were able to defeat the seemingly most powerful movement on the planet of terror. David walked into the valley with a stone clutched in his hand. He was only a boy, but he knew someone must make a stand. There will always be a valley, always mountains one must scale. There will always be perilous waters that someone must sail. Into valleys, into waters, into jungles, into hell. Let us ride home again with a story to tell. Into darkness, into danger, into storms that rip the night. Don't give in, don't give up, but give thanks to the glorious fight. You can tremble, you can feel it, but keep your fighting spirits alive, boys. Let the shiver of it sting you, fling into battle, spring to your feet. Boys, never hold back your step for a moment. Never doubt that your courage will grow. Yes, it's higher and higher, and into the fire we go. Someone has to face the valley, rush in, we have to rally and win, boys. When the world is saying not to, my God, you know you've got to march on. Boys, never hold back your step for a moment. Let the light courage will grow. Yes, it's higher and higher, and into the fire we go. Into fire, onward, Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Thank you for all your work, your hard work. And I believe that if we join together, hand in hand, on the threshold and the frontier of life, we can say in unison, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Amen and adieu. Thank you so much for your time.
David walked into the valley with a stone clutched in his hand. He was only a boy, but he knew someone must take a stand. There will always be a valley, always mountains one must scale. There will always be perilous waters which someone must sail. Into valleys, into waters, into jungles, into hell. Let us ride home again with a story to tell. Into darkness, into danger, into storms that rip the night. Don't give in, don't give up, but give thanks for the glorious fight. You can tremble, you can fear it, but keep your fighting spirit alive, boys. Let the shiver and sting you fling into battle, spring to your feet.